The two greatest evidence science has for human evolution is on fossil change and genetics. I will attempt to destroy these scientific evidences simply by the employment of logic. In the scientific attempt to prove human evolution, they resorted to using inductive logic, which through it, we can realize holes in the evolution narrative. Let me show you. Their first evidence is fossil change, wherein the fossil species are compared to extract similarities and differences. This procedure is through inductive logic, therefore the conclusion is ambiguous in nature, thus it cannot be reliable. Let's see. They have shown different bone structures of different kinds of hominids. Notice the similarities of it as shown, though it has differences, yet they call these differences as the gradual changes these hominids took in that evolutionary line to becoming man. Simply put, they were saying that humans came from an ape-like ancestor and has evolved gradually as seen through that process of fossil changes until it become man. Therefore these different kinds of hominids are the transitional points to becoming man. The problem is, there is a missing link. There is no convincing proof or anything publicized to show that indeed there is evolutionary relationship between these allegedly gradual changes. It has not sufficiently show direct relation between these bone structures. What they have shown are similarities and differences between bone structures, but is that conclusive enough to be reliable? What if these hominids are unrelated in terms of evolutionary process? What if these different hominids are different species as distinct and unrelated and having existed naturally with differences and similarities? On this note, it's possible. Science has no answer for such questions. Fact is, it assumed the transitional links. They have not yet shown any evolutionary relationship between these hominids. They claim it as gradual change, but where is the proof of relationship? Where is proof that they are actually related and not as distinct species? And even if there is evolutionary relationship between some of them, but where is the actual transitional links to becoming man? There is none. They simply made conclusion through an inductive procedure. Nothing, if we are to consult the fossils. Secondly, the other evidence is on genetics, that is on DNA sequencing. Emphatically, the procedure with it is identical with fossil change evolution. It's basically comparing genetic similarities and differences between species. Meaning, through DNA similarities and differences, scientists can determine if two different species have branched out from a common ancestor or if they are farther related. Implying, scientists could trace back evolutionary history through DNA similarities and differences. Yet is this method unambiguous in regards to determining evolutionary history? An atheist I debated with assured me that DNA sequencing to determine evolutionary history is already factual, so let's take it as that. For me, assessing it scientifically alone without other options as intelligent design or a naturally grand design makes this whole process as a defective methodology. I believe grand design has been the real reason for these similarities and differences and not actually a product of evolution. God must have created living things inherent with similarities and differences in DNA, whereas through time has developed to what we are now presently. The hereditary links we have are not necessary of evolution from a common ancestor, but simply a development in time within same species, or for some cases, evolution within certain kinds such as bird to bird or dog to dog and never beyond the level of kinds. Much to this concept is the idea that grand design produced DNA that could mutate into new species but not beyond its kind. For example, birds evolved to birds and not beyond its kind. Moreover, science says, we demonstrate quantitatively that, as predicted by evolutionary theory, sequences of homologous proteins from different species converge as we go further and further back in time. Unquote. Meaning, studies show that DNA sequences provide information of a perfectly similar DNA specifics, that is, homologous proteins, between species that converge back in time. But does it prove that convergence implied a common ancestor, or was it plain intelligent design to have the initial DNA specifics between species to have 100% similarities? Or is these converging proteins the complete set of proteins in this initial timeframe? For example, 150% DNA on man and 100% DNA on hominids in the initial timeframe and through development in time has resulted to 95 to 98% similarity. This is a possibility to show ambiguity, right? What scientists cannot answer is, with this similarity, how are they related? As for the process, science say. At the same time, scientists are still aware that the DNA document of history, so to speak, is one that has gaps and is somewhat fragmented. However, DNA sequences alone do not answer all the questions that biologists ask, and knowing a gene's sequence is still many steps away from understanding how it actually works and what it does. DNA sequences are only one line of evidence illuminating evolutionary relationships. Unquote. As much as it takes, that illumination was not yet to certify evolution in a much certain way as an impetus to this complex life could have been too, possible through grand design. So what have I shown you? Logical possibility for genetic sequencing, in that it allows ground for other possibilities than the scientific conclusion. Normally, evidences for human evolution is kind of ambiguous, in that it used inductive logic. Thank you.